Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bold Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. With me, as always, Steve Marik, Greg Smith, and I'm Zack Carpenter. Previewing today, boys, Nebraska Northwestern. Both are 3-3, both 1-2 in the Big Ten, both coming off a bye week, both making transitions to a new head coach, one head coach in Matt Rule and the other interim coach in David Braun. The Huskers are right now 11.5-point favorites with a 41.5 over-under. Just bringing it around the horn. Initial thoughts from you guys, Steve.
Yeah, so I think Nebraska ended on a high note going into the bye week with that big win on the road, a Big Ten West win at Illinois, and so kind of getting through that bye week and then heading on to the rest of the season looks pretty good. And if you're looking at a potential bowl berth for the first time since 2016, so that's good for Husker fans. But of course, as we know, Nebraska should not be trusted with assuming a win here, even though it might look like it on paper. So I'm really anxious for this game. I'm really excited for it. I've been kind of impressed actually with Northwestern after everything they've gone through with that scandal before the season, firing Pat Fitzgerald and everything, and having David Braun come in that tough position that he is. They haven't laid down and just died and been walked over. I think they've showed a little bit of fight here. Which is good to see from those guys. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game. And obviously, Northwestern season isn't over yet as well. So they're going to be wanting to win this thing as well because they have 3 wins too, just like Nebraska. So it's going to be an interesting one on Saturday.
Yeah, oddly, you have to give credit to what Steve was saying about them not kind of laying down and just giving up.
Yep.
You kind of have to give some credit to Pat Fitzgerald for that, right? Like, I feel like him kind of instilling the culture, well, even though the culture was kind of what got them in trouble, but you know what I mean? Like, what they've kind of, on the field at least, have been, I'll say, have kind of carried over, like that toughness, that not giving up on the field. Like, they're not going to ever, like, wow you physically. Like, they're just going to overwhelm you with all of these, like, superior athletes or anything, but they do play with heart, and they're always kind of fundamentally sound. I don't think that this will be any different. I'm with Steve as well, that I think that this is kind of the second week in a row that I'm oddly excited for, or the second game in a row, oddly excited for a matchup that really on paper is like, okay, what are we talking about here? Because that Illinois game, I was weirdly excited for that because I thought Nebraska had a great opportunity in front of it. And I'm similarly excited for this game because, again, I think Nebraska has a different opportunity in front of it to go out here and get a win streak or have a win streak go. And then also to win a game in which now you've gone through a couple of weeks of hearing about, oh, okay, I know Matt Rule wants them to tune it out, but hearing about, oh, they're better than this team. Let's look towards the future. The schedule lines up, all of that. This would be very classic Nebraska, as I think we all can agree, to go out there and lay an egg. Can they avoid doing that? Like that, I'm really fascinated to see how that turns out.
And that's sort of the MO, the theme of the week, right? I mean, Matt Rule, he's been intense in those Monday press conferences, after Michigan, and it was a different type of intense. It was a different type of urgency he was talking about on Monday, because after Michigan, it was, well, that was embarrassing. Like, we're going to see what we're actually built of against Illinois. And this one is like trying to keep the foot on the gas pedal and make sure there's no complacency, because exactly right. I mean, he spoke to the fact that Nebraska's been, I mean, he didn't use the word terrible, but he might as well have in the second half of the season. And that's I think what makes it extra interesting is that part of it. And then the first opponent going into the second half of the season is Northwestern. And it's a team that Nebraska has had trouble conquering when it's they have these issues with the programs that are that feel like they should be at the same level or lower than Nebraska, but they haven't beat them on the field, so they haven't been at or below their level. The Nebraska's been below the levels of these teams for years now. So this is why it's sort of another turning point game, another game that could show us that things are starting to shift, right? I mean, that's what it feels like this week. We're starting to see sort of the that narrative, that culture in Nebraska start to shift, but that's just the feeling right now. We got to see it on the field. So when Northwestern comes to town, we'll see if the narratives all week play out actually between the lines. So again, Nebraska 11.5 point favorite. I have literally 7 pages of notes, 7.5, because I was just writing down stats frantically, and I also got a new notebook that's smaller. And that's
you always want to try out the new notebook. Everyone can feel you on that one. Yeah, like that I can feel you on.
No, I don't like it. I need a notebook for home that like takes up half the desk so I can just rattle it off and like have one page to look at. Because I'm a classic pen and paper guy if I can be when I jot down notes. And I mean, if you look at it, it's like organized chaos where it looks like a Goodwill Hunting mathematical formula on it. Like before last week's bowl predictions, I wrote a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I know exactly what this says. Like, Steve, you'll know the Goodwill Hunting reference. I can just look at this and I know it. I can look at the piano and just play. And I had Karina look at it. I'm like, can you do your best and try to tell me what points I was trying to make by looking at this? And it was like kind of close actually, but that was the bowl predictions going into the second half of the year, which you can take a look at our Inside Nebraska YouTube channel. Nice little plug there to see what we believe. I know not to step on our final score predictions here, but we all, I believe we all have Nebraska getting a win because me and Steve have Nebraska finishing 7-5. Greg went nuts and went 8-4. And Steve, I don't know if you caught it on Monday. Greg and I did a rapid recap video after the press conference, and he said we made an agreement. We had a handshake agreement on the air that we can't. I'm not allowed to talk about a potential bowl game or bowl projections specifically until Nebraska, unless Nebraska wins this game. If they beat Northwestern, then I get to talk about it. So,
but in the post game rapid recap, you can talk about it then. Until then, nope.
Oh, I'm gonna come out firing with that one if Nebraska does what we all think it'll do.
Totally fine.
And win on Saturday. But I'm gonna quit rambling. Just a couple quick notes. I wrote a bunch of stats down. I'll probably only wind up using 3 of them, but Northwestern 118th in rush offense versus Nebraska's 17th. Northwestern's pass offense 96th, Nebraska 125th, and Northwestern they've done a decent job of limiting explosive plays and the passing game. They're 26th in pass defense to Nebraska being 93rd. This is out of 130 teams in the FBS nationally. And Northwestern, trouble stopping the run, 106th in rush defense compared to Nebraska at number 3 nationally. Ben Bryant, Northwestern quarterback, sounds like he's likely out, according to Rivals Louis Vicar for Wildcat Report. Sounds like Ben Bryant most likely out. And I believe Pat Sullivan, I believe Pat is his first name. Brandon, sorry. Brandon Sullivan is most likely a quarterback. Might see some of Jack Loesch, but for a team that has had trouble running the ball and defending the run and hasn't exploded in the pass game, but at least they have Ben Bryant there, the Cincinnati transfer. They had some stuff they were working with, but now he's out. So I don't know. It feels like the stack is the deck is stacked against Northwestern in this one. We'll see if Steve agrees.
Yeah, I do agree. I don't think Northwestern's a very good team, but I think they play hard, just like Greg said earlier. And so for my one prediction, I will go with Nebraska's offense rushing for, and I'm going to get oddly specific here, guys, 378 yards. So 378 rushing yards for Nebraska's offense. It's not quite the 427 from back in 2021. Shout out to Jack Azient and Xavier Betts, who both had touchdown runs of 60+ yards in that one. What a night for Scott Frost and the Huskers in 2021 against Northwestern. But I just from doing a little research, watching their games, Northwestern's defense just is really, really struggling to stop the run, giving up 172 yards on the ground. Howard, an FCS opponent, just put up 160-ish rushing yards a couple weeks ago against Northwestern. It's just not looking good. Minnesota rushed for 244 yards against Northwestern. Duke, which is pretty good. Shout out Mike Elko. He had the offense rush for 268 yards. Northwestern is giving up 5.71 rushing yards on first downs. That's really, really bad. And Nebraska's rush defense on first downs when it's a run is really, really good. It's right next to Penn State, top of the Big Ten conference. So, I just think that Nebraska is going to be wanting to make a statement with the rush offense that, like, hey, we are a rushing team. We can do this against an inferior opponent, which I believe Northwestern is. So I think Matt Rule and Marcus Satterfield are going to hammer the runs on Saturday, and they're going to get 378 yards of it.
Man, I mean, it would be great. And that prediction actually plays right into what I'm thinking with mine as well, is I think that Nebraska is going to hit a season high of 20 points in the first half of this game, which when you first hear that, you're like, man, that's a weird specific number as well. But I'll have you know that Nebraska's high for the season so far in the first half came last week with the 17 points scored in the first half versus Illinois, 14 versus Northern Illinois, 7 versus Louisiana Tech. And then the other ones were not so good, right? And so Nebraska has been, they've been a slow starting team. And so maybe those body blows will add up over time, like Steve is kind of alluding to. You have it the whole game if Steve's number is correct. But I think they'll be able to hit some early as well. I do think the majority of this is going to come on the ground. And as you'll see kind of in my final score prediction, I think that they still kind of choke the game out, as Matt Rule likes to say, in that second half, fourth quarter area. But I think that Nebraska can put up points on this team. That 2021 Northwestern game, real quick on that, it was the highlight of the Scott Frost era. That is his best win, in my opinion. And so it's a really weird thing to think about that game. But I do think that as weird as this series has been, or as competitive as it's been outside of really that 21 game, because there have been a lot of close games and kind of thrilling endings in this series, I think that this one will be a little bit different because Nebraska will start off hot and get 20 points in the first half.
First off, the choke the game out was the from Rule was the quote of the press conference. He kind of snuck it in there. It's like, oh, I wish I would have thought of that before he said it. That's a hell of a way to phrase it. But wait, real quick, Steve, maybe I missed it. What's the significance of the 378 number? Or is that just pick a number out of a hat? Like, because I did.
No, it's just whatever.
Is that their high? But that's not their high of the season. Is it?
It would be. It would be. Yeah.
Can they give the 75 in the fourth quarter? I'm so locked in on that. Like, I love that.
Well, there's no significance for 378. It's just a random number that popped in my head. It just felt like good because I didn't want to go 427 like in 2021 because I don't think it'll be that far. But I could see like I wanted to originally with this prediction go with 350 plus, but it's like we're trying to be bold with these predictions, so like get more specific. So I just went with 378.
But the thing is on that is it because of also what Zack was saying about the choke out the game and kind of what I said too is that this is a team now that if they are running the ball well, they are going to run up some good rushing totals, right? Because they're not going to go away from it. This is not a staff like you've heard a lot less this year about run the damn ball, like all of that stuff. I feel like everybody's kind of calmed the waters on that one because it's what they have kind of become known for doing.
Yeah, it was after that first game where Nebraska against Minnesota had that drive of 7 minutes 37 seconds. They just ran the ball down Minnesota's throat and ran threw the ball when it needed to. Sims to Washington on that one in-breaking route, the post or slant. But outside of that, they were running the ball, and then their next possession, 3 and out with 3 throws. I believe it was. Including the downfield one to Tommy Hill. And we're seeing, I think another theme this week is Nebraska, like Steve wrote, is Nebraska's coaching staff adjusting its style offensively and defensively, but especially offensively to fit the personnel. And that's what Marcus Satterfield talked about on Tuesday, was we'll do whatever it takes to win. Like we'll run whatever offense we have to run in order to score points. And right now that's running the ball. That's the strength, and that matches up well for Nebraska against Northwestern's weakness in rushing defense. But I'm going with the other side of the ball for my bold prediction, going with a defensive stat because I've done this now at least once, I think maybe twice, probably twice with a sack type number bold prediction. And like I was telling Greg yesterday, I was 2 weeks too early to the Jamari Butler breakout sack party. I had that against. I had them predicted to rack up 6 sacks against Louisiana Tech, with Butler getting 2 against that team. But then Louisiana Tech came out. Their air raid offense is short, quick throws, get the ball out early. Nebraska wasn't really was strategically not really sending much pressure, and they wound up with 0 sacks in that game, 0 against Michigan. But in every other game, the other 4 games, they have at least 3 sacks. They have 17 total sacks, with 3 against Minnesota, 8 against Colorado, 3 against NIU, and then 3 2 weeks ago against Illinois. In the official stat book on online, they have 16 sacks, but I think 1 either got miscounted or it was changed to a TFL along the way, or something like that. So that's the sack total. I have them down for 17, and I have a trivia time for you guys right now, right now. So Northwestern has allowed 22 sacks this year, which is tied for 116th out of 130 teams, and it's second to last for most in the Big Ten. So, and it is tied 7th most in the Power 5. So there are 6 teams in the Power 5 with more sacks allowed than Northwestern. Can you guys name 2 of them? And the hint is that Nebraska has played 2 of those in the bottom 6.
Illinois,
Colorado.
Yep, Illinois and Colorado.
Hey, look at us! Look at us!
Teamwork makes the dream work. Safety first, then teamwork. You guys got it, 1 each. The last time I did trivia time, we were stammering around for a while. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten it either, but Illinois 28 sacks allowed, Colorado 35, and against those 2 teams, Nebraska had 3 sacks against Illinois again, and 8 against Colorado. So.
But that's a good sign though for what we're talking about with the leaky run defense of Notre Dame, of Northwestern. God, the people are going to hate me on the site because they've been accusing me of being a Notre Dame guy. I'm sorry, Northwestern.
Notre Dame on the brain.
I got Notre Dame on the brain. Jeez, sorry, Northwestern. But does that mean that Nebraska can actually take advantage of the weaknesses that other teams are presenting? That's something to kind of put a pin in and kind of keep our eye on this weekend, because that would kind of be a little bit of a pattern that they're either on either side of the ball able to kind of take advantage of the things that their opponents are now bad at. That's a good thing.
And
Steve,
you go.
Yeah, it makes a good point, because this is another opportunity to turn the pass rush loose, and to do that, you need to stop the run first of all. And the good thing about Northwestern, if you're a Husker fan, not for Northwestern, is they're really bad at running the football. I like Cam Porter as a running back. He runs really hard. I appreciate watching him. But if Northwestern is going to be in those 2nd and 3rd and longs, turn the guys loose. The Jamari Butler, Princewell Uman Mielen, Nash Hutmacher has even been in there as a big guy, interior guy. There's just going to be opportunities, I think, especially with the quarterbacks that Northwestern might be playing with. Brandon Sullivan, Jack Loesch, who's more of just a Wildcat runner right now. He's really, really fast and really athletic. Kind of reminds me of Heinrich Haarberg a little bit, but Heinrich can throw the ball a little bit better than Jack can. If Ben Bryant can't go, and there's been some confusion with if he is able to go or he won't be able to go, David Braun, the interim head coach, might be playing a little gamesmanship there with Nebraska's staff. If Ben Bryant can't go, that really, really hurts Northwestern's offense, because Ben Bryant's a 6-year guy. Nothing's going to surprise him out there. He's seen it all. He's played for 3 programs, 2 stints at Cincinnati, one season at Eastern Michigan. Now he's at Northwestern. So he's been around the block. He's seen some things, and he's a much, much better thrower than the backup Brandon Sullivan is. And I don't want to kill Brandon Sullivan. He's a 3rd-year guy, but he's just never played. So he's kind of tossed into the fire last couple weekends ago against Howard, and didn't really look all that great. So if you're a Husker fan, you're hoping that Brandon Sullivan starts and plays. And if you're a Northwestern fan, you're really hoping that Ben Bryant plays. But I think that it's going to be a really good opportunity to get some pass rush and get those sacks back up for Tony White's defense.
Yeah, I feel like real quick. I feel like Ben Bryant, and whether or not he's out on the field, I see a picture from Steve pregame. So make sure you're popping over to his Twitter feed.
Oh, I'm going to be finding that guy.
Yeah, see, I see it building already.
No, can I comment on that? Like, I was thinking about it after the Illinois game. Like, Steve's a must follow if you're a Husker fan. Like during games, mainly for the fact that he cuts up the clips like right away off YouTube TV. Like he was doing that all night against for the Illinois game, and like I was using them to go and look back on. I had the stream up, but Steve Marik, was it Steve_Marik?
Think so.
Something like that.
Let's check it out right now.
I don't know who's gonna get there first.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Steve_Marik.
So give him a follow. I don't care if you follow me or not. I'm not a must follow. Steve is though during the game, so he's gonna have those cut ups rolling out, I'm sure, throughout the night or throughout the day against Northwestern for that 2:30 kickoff. But I think to the point of back to the sacks total. I mean, first off, Nebraska is playing again against might be playing against a team's backup quarterback again. Louisiana Tech. Hank Bachmeier was out. We saw that, and then Jack Turner came in, and so it could be a similar situation today or Saturday this week as Ben Bryant might be out, and apologies to the Sullivan family for getting his first name wrong. Brandon Sullivan, I'll have that locked in and not mess that up again. But I didn't even get to my actual specific bowl prediction, which is at least 4 sacks, which isn't that bold, I guess. At least 4 sacks, though, for Nebraska. I think I'm still a little gun shy after going with 6, and they got 0 against Louisiana Tech. But I mean, Howard, an FCS program, went up to Evanston, and they had 4 sacks going into the game, and they had 4 against Northwestern's offensive line. So you got to figure with the situation with the Nebraska's very, very strong rushing defense to make Northwestern one-dimensional. That's what Nebraska's been doing to every team except Michigan this year, is making them one-dimensional, making them rely on the passing offense. And if you don't have a good one, then I just don't see how you move the ball against this Nebraska defense. And I think there's going to be those opportunities, the pass rushing opportunities for them. And you know what? I'll go with 5 sacks or more, 5+ sacks for Nebraska. I feel bad about not going bold enough, so I'll go with 5. So that's mine. And we're gonna bring it around for the final score predictions. We kind of stepped on it like here and there, which is what we always do. We kind of throw in like little bits to sort of tease what our score predictions are going to be. But Steve, again, Nebraska minus 11.5, 41.5 over under right now. Who you got?
I got Nebraska winning this thing 35-17.
A little wow, that actually surprised me. Normally I'm the one saying something out there that gets everybody surprised. That got me. Would that hit the over then? What did you say? My math is bad. 41.5.
So that's a 52-point total with Steve. So he's going over.
How many times has Nebraska hit the over?
Yeah, it can't be.
I had it written up. Greg, you fill the air while I go find that.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, I did say that Nebraska was going to have 20 points in the first half, which might make you think that I'm leaning towards Steve in hitting the over. I am not, but I do have Nebraska getting a victory here, 28-7. I do think that Nebraska will control this game for the most part. I like all of the stuff that we're talking about running the ball and stopping the run. Probably like music to Matt Rule's ears, right? About how he actually wants to set this program up. But I truly think that that's what they're going to do once again. And it is interesting that, to me, except for obviously that Michigan game, Nebraska has been really consistent in those 2 areas of the game, right? Like they've been able to run the ball on people, and they definitely have been able to stop the run. I think they do that again. I think that you see a couple of guys have some big rushing days and go get. I don't know if we'll get the Steve's total. He might be the one that's correct after this. But I do think they'll put up some big rushing yards. But 28-7, I got Nebraska as a winner, and then Zack can talk about bowl projections in rapid recap after the game.
Thank you. Yeah, we shook on it. So if that happens, I'm leading off with that as the main storyline. I'm gonna hammer it home.
A shake on video is more powerful than just a shake in general, right?
I think it's
people witnessed it.
Written contract.
They witnessed it.
I like it. Written contract.
My word is oak.
You can throw addendums in there and language to muck it up, but I mean everyone has seen it. It's out there for everyone to see, is the handshake. But back to the over under. Nebraska over under. The over is 2, has hit twice in Nebraska's 6 games this year. And Nebraska is 1-3 as an underdog, 2-0 as a favorite straight up. They're 3-3 against the spread, 3-3 straight up. So 11.5, I think You both have. What you say? 28-7, Greg.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Northwestern's 2-4 against the spread. Over has hit 4 times in the Northwestern games. So what a battle going on there with the point total. But my original bowl prediction is tied into my final score prediction. I'm doing it. I'm predicting Nebraska's defense to pitch a shutout. I have Nebraska. You look at all the numbers and you ask yourself, what does Northwestern do well? Well, there's 2 things. I mean, Northwestern does what Nebraska has not done this year and has historically not done over the last few years. Northwestern doesn't shoot itself in the foot. It doesn't beat itself. I mean, they've only turned the ball over 5 times, which is tied second fewest in the Big Ten. Nebraska has 13 turnovers, which is tied 12th in the Big Ten. And it's bottom 25 in the country in that stat. Neither team really forces a lot of turnovers. Nebraska was 6th, Northwestern with 5 turnovers forced, which are again bottom 15, bottom 20 in the country. And Northwestern doesn't commit a lot of penalties. They only have 28 penalties committed, which is tied 14th in the country, 4th in the Big Ten. And Nebraska is middle of the nation, middle of the country with 38 penalties, which is 10th in the Big Ten. So Northwestern doesn't beat itself, but when you look at this offense, with everything we've talked about, I'm not going to keep hammering home everything we've gone over already, but I just don't envision a scenario where where Northwestern's able to move the ball against this defense effectively. I think it'll be really similar to Illinois and Northern Illinois and Illinois when both teams were having problems moving the ball against this defense. I mean, you saw Louisiana Tech put together a couple drives where it did, but I sort of see the game shaking out like that. And to the things we talked about, if Nebraska can conquer this sort of demon, honestly, this Northwestern demon, we saw it pop up last year, and it when Northwestern came back in the onside kick game, it was sort of the beginning of the end. Greg was right on it. I still remember him tweeting right after the game was over that this is the beginning of the end, essentially, for the Scott Frost era, and it was. But this is the beginning of the Matt Rule era, and I think last week was that turning point. We talk about the goal line stand. We talk about the Sunday practice. Well, this is the next step. This is the next step where you stack wins, you stack culture moments. You have to do it. I mean, Pat Fitzgerald called last year's win over Nebraska a culture win. That's what this is going to have to be for Nebraska to show that things are starting to shift, that the tide is starting to shift. And I think we've gotten that mindset, that attitude from Rule and the staff on down to the players. I mean, Isaac Gifford talked about it. Their new approach is we're preparing each week like we just got our ass kicked by Michigan. I think that's the right approach for this team, to always have that in the back of your mind. Like if you start not paying attention, if you start just slacking off or not putting everything into it and not focusing, then just remember 45-7, and really should have been 45-0. Like, thank God for Josh Fleeks, if you're a Nebraska fan, for that long touchdown run. But if Nebraska takes care of the ball, which I understand is a big if, because 13 turnovers is absurd. It's one of the worst in the country. If Nebraska takes care of the ball and at least cuts the penalties in half, 10 against Illinois, cut those in half and take care of the ball, I just don't see an avenue for a Northwestern win, and they don't force many turnovers. So I have 31-0. Give me that Nebraska shutout. I wonder what Steve, we're bringing around for final thoughts. What do you think would be the award for Tony White's defense if they pitch a shutout? We like go out for ice cream sandwiches or something like that. We doing something. We're doing a little something pride stickers now.
You mean like for us, or like for the team? Like if
for
they
the
pitch
team,
a shutout?
For the team, you guys don't get anything if Nebraska pitches.
We get ice cream sandwiches, man. We get
if it's
like Michael Scott in The Office.
If Tony White's unit pitches a shutout, which again, it's possible for sure. I don't think it'll happen, but it's possible.
Yeah, you got him scoring 17. You got him crushing.
Yeah, I know.
Nebraska defense.
I don't know.
But 17 is a good normally they're just their offense just isn't very good. So
no, it's not, and a lot of it depends on if Ben Bryant plays or not. Because
so you think he's going to play?
I think there's some gamesmanship going on with David Bryant. I think it's his first time in the head coaching seat, and I think he's maybe said a little too much about what he thought Ben Bryant was gonna do earlier in the week, and then he thought, well, maybe I should just like keep Nebraska's coaches guessing as much as possible. And if Ben Bryant does end up playing, he has two pretty good receivers. I really like the top two receivers from Northwestern. Bryce Kurtz, he's a 5th-year guy, 6 foot, 195 pounder. Cam Johnson spent 4 years at Vanderbilt, spent 2022 at Arizona State. Now he's at Northwestern. They've had success when the ball is in their vicinity. It just hasn't happened a lot this year. So I do like the weapons that whoever is at quarterback has. But it's just can they have time to throw the ball? That offensive line is pretty bad, I think. I just think that this is a big game for Nebraska in regards to, I guess, what they're going to do when everybody expects them to win. So Matt Rule has talked about this team and trying to stay focused during the game. He mentioned at Illinois that he didn't really like that some of the players were doing the Go Big Red chant from the Husker fans that were in the stadium. He wanted them to focus just on what was happening on the field and not off of it. And so a big thing with me is how is this specific group of Huskers going to handle success? And they had success on the road at Illinois. They had a whole bye week to scout themselves, to get healthy, let the bumps and bruises heal. Luke Reimer's probably going to be out there this week, which is great to see. But how are they going to handle it mentally? Are they going to go into this game thinking that they're just going to walk all over a bad Northwestern team? That's probably what happened in years past about Nebraska thinking they were above Northwestern. Well, they're not. Not right now. They aren't. So, I don't know. I'm just really anxious for this game. I'm getting myself pumped up for it because I want to see how they respond to people thinking that they're just going to win this thing. I myself think that they're going to win it, but I want to see it play out on the field and how clean and how focused they are for this game.
Yeah, my final thought is just how, along the same lines, how do Nebraska's players take ownership of the program? How do we get to what's the next step look like? Because I think this is part of it, handling that success, having, they talked a lot about, taking the leash off. You guys are off the chain. We're going to go ahead and go out there and let you show your personalities. They were able to do some of that. Now, how do you control that and keep that going? I think that this is an interesting test, and I know Matt Rule will be looking at it that way. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out. To go all the way back to Zach's original question, if Nebraska pitches a shutout, then now Tony White has to treat the whole defense to Manny Petties instead of just the defensive line like Terrence Knighton did.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Matt Rule is going to be cooking the defense steak at his house.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Because
they said that they've been going to his house.
Tony White mentioned
that was
Tony White has mentioned that Rule hosts position groups just to hang out, eat some food, over at his house, which I'm sure is very huge. So
yeah, I'm sure. You usually don't see that though. Remember a couple of weeks ago, Tony White said that thing about how I think it was Tony White said that he hung out with the defense and they kind of came over and they brought their girlfriends over. You see that, but I can't remember hearing about the head coach having players. So we usually see it's like a fun picture in the off season. Guys are in the pool, they're hanging out, right? But you usually see that. But in the season, I've never heard of that here in Nebraska at least.
Yeah, I mean, they might have a steak cookout even if Nebraska wins 28-27, or even if they lose. I mean, that's sort of the things, like you said, the little moments that are happening here and there that are just little signs, all right, that's different. That's different. That's what Nebraska needs.
They're a big family.
Big family. Real quick before we go, weather forecast, not notable. Not notable. No.
That's good.
Well, we say that. I say last time we talked about the rain, and then it wasn't a factor at all until the lightning delay, which is the
worst.
We're going to look back on that moment as maybe that's the turning point in this program. What was the togetherness in the locker room during that lightning delay? It's
we saw it in the documentary.
71 degrees, clear skies, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds. So that won't be nearly as much of a factor, it looks like, at the Illinois game, or as it was against Illinois. When we saw Heinrich Harburg throw a 21-yard completion to Ty Hahn on a huge play that was, I thought it was severely underthrown, and then turns out, no, Matt Rule said the wing caught it. And it's like, well, in the end, no matter what happened, it turned into a textbook back shoulder fade. That's what I saw. That's what I saw again on that night. But on
Harburg
that note,
too.
I don't think you guys have anything else to add, unless Steve has some. Good.
If it is a blowout and it is just like some backups getting some action, I think that's awesome for Nebraska. I hope it does happen, and I hope that Quentin Ives sees the field and maybe gets some carries, because that guy's intriguing for me.
I do want to see him play.
Yeah, I just want to see him.
It's
out
just
there.
not ready, but I do want to see him play.
How about we see Jeremiah Charles out there at corner?
Yeah,
at the end. I don't
him
know.
and
I don't
Bryce
know if he
Turner
would be out there. Even if they do get snaps for the if that does happen, it's a blowout, and they get the young guys a lot of snaps. I don't know if Jeremiah Charles or Bryce Turner would be ready after such a recent transition from receiver to corner, but we'll see. We'll see a lot of things on Saturday. We'll see if these bowl predictions are correct, final score predictions, and you can check out our others. We have more bowl predictions at InsideNebraska.com. We keep the written ones separate from the video. Go a little more in depth here, but we'll have stuff up there by the time this video is out at InsideNebraska.com, and encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, where Greg and I will be recapping the game afterward on Saturday with talking about the bowl projections that Nebraska will have. It sounds like if things all go right. So make sure to check that out. Make sure to check out everything we got going on online after leading up to the game and after the game. So for Steve Marik, Greg Smith, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.